Hello my learner, this is your teacher Mwalili with an exciting lesson in biology. Today we are going to look at an introduction to transport in animals. This is a Form 2 biology chapter, and I want to begin by stating what involves transport in animals. We are generally talking about the circulatory system. I want to begin by explaining the circulatory system, which is the main system of operation in terms of transport in animals. This is very different from transport in plants. Remember, transport in plants involves the vascular bundles, the xylem and the phloem. But now, transport in animals generally involves the circulatory system. What is the circulatory system? The circulatory system is a means of transporting substances in large and complex animals. We have animals, especially the mammals, reptiles, the fishes, and so on. These are animals that use the circulatory system as a means of transporting substances. Remember, the substances here are useful materials such as oxygen, which is required for respiration, and many other useful substances. We also deal with elimination of waste products from metabolism, such as the nitrogenous wastes. Now, the circulatory system mainly consists of three components. A circulatory system mainly consists of 1. Tubes. For example, the vessels such as arteries, veins, capillaries, venules, etc. Number 2. Transport fluid. A very good example of the transport fluid is blood. Blood is commonly found in mammals, especially mammals. We also have another transport fluid that we call the hemolymph, which is common in arthropods such as insects. We will be looking at that later. Number 3, pumping mechanism. Here we are talking about the heart. It forces the fluid or air within the tubes. So this is a pumping mechanism. A circulatory system maintains a steep concentration gradient at the surfaces. For example, we are talking about the lungs, the gills. These are respiratory surfaces where diffusion occurs. Now, types of circulatory systems. Basically, we have two types. Of circulatory systems. Number 1, we have what we call the open circulatory system, whereby the transport fluid, in this case we call it the hemolymph, is contained in the general body cavity, that is the hemocoel, and this is a system that is common in invertebrates such as arthropods. A very good example of the arthropod or arthropods, we have insects. Number 2, closed circulatory system. This is whereby the transport fluid, blood, is conveyed in special tubes, blood vessels. This is common in vertebrates and annelids. Okay, you know the difference between vertebrates and invertebrates. Vertebrates have the vertebral column, commonly known as the backbone. Invertebrates do not have the vertebral column. Annelids are a group of worms, a certain type of worms. They actually belong to the invertebrates groups of animals. A good example of an annelid is the earthworm. Good. Now let's look at the differences between open and closed circulatory systems. The differences between open and closed circulatory systems. Number one, in the open circulatory system, the transport fluid, that is the hemolymph, is conveyed in general body cavity. The general body cavity is what is known as hemocoel. While in the closed circulatory system, the transport fluid, that is blood, is conveyed in closed vessels. Number two, in open circulatory system, the transport fluid is pumped under low pressure, while in closed circulatory system, the transport fluid is pumped under relatively higher pressure. Number three, in open circulatory system, the transport fluid flows slowly. The transport fluid flows slowly, while in closed circulatory system, the transport fluid flows faster. Number four, in open circulatory system, the transport fluid is in direct contact with the tissues. The transport fluid is in direct contact with the tissues, while in closed circulatory system, the transport fluid is not in direct contact with the tissues. Number five, tissues receive their requirements at a slower rate in open circulatory system, while in closed circulatory system, the tissues receive their requirements at a faster rate. Number six, in open circulatory system, there is slow removal of metabolic wastes from the tissues. There is slow removal of metabolic wastes from the tissues, while in closed circulatory system, there is faster removal of metabolic wastes from the tissues. Number seven, organisms that have open circulatory system are generally less active, while organisms that have closed circulatory system are more active. They are generally more active. And the last point, number 8, open circulatory system is common in invertebrates, especially arthropods, for example, insects, while closed circulatory system is common in vertebrates and annelids. Now, a quick recap on the differences between open and closed circulatory system. Now, we have said that In open circulatory system, we have the hemolymph, which is found in the general body cavity known as hemocoel. That is where the transport fluid is found. While in closed circulatory system, the blood flows in closed vessels. Number 2, the transport fluid in open circulatory system is under low pressure, or it flows under low pressure, while the transport fluid in closed circulatory system flows under higher pressure. Number 3, the transport fluid flows slowly in open circulatory system, while in closed circulatory system the blood flows faster. Number 4, there is direct contact with the tissues. That is, the transport fluid is in direct contact with the tissues, but in closed circulatory system the blood or the transport fluid is not in direct contact with tissues. We talk about indirect contact. Number 5, in open circulatory system the tissues receive their requirements slowly. There is slow receiving of requirements by the tissues, while in closed circulatory system there is faster receiving of requirements by the tissues. Number 6, there is slow removal of metabolic wastes in open circulatory system, while in closed circulatory system there is faster removal of metabolic wastes. That is from the tissues. Number 7, organisms with open circulatory system are less active, while organisms with closed circulatory system are more active. And lastly, number 8, the open circulatory system is common in invertebrates, arthropods such as insects, while closed circulatory system is common in vertebrates and annelids. Good. Now we look at something else. Transport in insects. We shall narrow down to insects now. Insects have an open circulatory system. You need to note that they have an open circulatory system. Remember, we have said that the open circulatory system, there is the general body cavity where the transport fluid flows in. We don't have blood vessels. Blood is contained in hemocoel. Actually, the blood here is the hemolymph. More specifically, we talk about hemolymph. Hemolymph is contained in hemocoel and within a dorsotubular heart. The blood contains suspended leukocytes, that is white blood cells, and some pigments. The blood is not largely involved in transport of gases, that is oxygen and carbon dioxide. Actually, the transport of gases in insects is very different from transport of gases in other animals such as mammals. In insects, they use a system that is known as the tracheal system. So transport of gases is mainly by diffusion in tubes called the tracheal system. We have a whole discussion on gaseous exchange that will look at that in a different chapter, that is gaseous exchange, and you'll be able to understand more about the tracheal system. All right. Now, let's look at transport in a cockroach. A cockroach is a very common insect. What is the scientific name of a cockroach? A good guess. Okay. Scientifically known as Periplanata americana. Okay, we'll be coming to that later. Okay. It has a tubular heart of 13 chambers located just above the alimentary canal. 13 chambers, quite some number of chambers here. How many chambers does the human heart have? Good, 4. So you can see this one has so many chambers. 13 is quite a bigger number compared to 4. The chambers are 3 in the thorax and 10 in the abdominal segments. The anterior segment of the heart is joined to the aorta that empties the blood into sinuses of the head. Sinuses are just like spaces within the head. There's some cavities within the head. Each chamber contains a pair of valves at the anterior part, which prevent backflow of blood. All right. Open circulatory system in a cockroach. We continue now. Look at this diagram here. I want to explain something here. So we are saying that the heart is tubular. Look, this is the heart. Look at this. Look at this. Looks like a tube. It's tubular. That's why you say it is tubular. Tubular from the word tube, meaning it looks like a tube. Then it is located on the upper region of the body, which is known as dorso. Dorso refers to the upper part of the body. If it is the lower part of the body, we talk about ventral. Areas around the head, we talk about anterior, and at the tail end here, that's posterior. So the cockroach heart is tubular, located on the upper side, just above the alimentary canal. This is the alimentary canal, beginning from the mouth all the way, okay, or the digestive system for that matter. So the heart is above that, is above the alimentary canal. Then we have said there is an aorta, that is the vessel that empties blood into the sinuses, the spaces, the cavities within the head. And you'll notice something, that each chamber of the heart has an opening. Each opening is called the ostium. And the heart is covered by a membrane, a protective membrane, that is called the pericardial membrane. So we have the flow of these arrows indicate the hemolymph. Okay, we are saying blood, but specifically we should call it hemolymph in insects or in arthropods for that matter. And it flows into the heart through the ostium. One is ostium, plural is ostia. Okay, let's move on. I need to explain something here about this system in the cockroach. Now, transport in a cockroach. The cockroach is scientifically known as Periplaneta americana. Now, each chamber has lateral openings called ostia. Lateral means they are on the sides. One is ostium. The ostia are closed by valves. So the work of the valves is to close the ostia and also to prevent backflow of the blood. The valves allow blood to flow only into the heart through the ostia, but not out of it. So the blood cannot flow backwards. Now, I would like you to look at this animation of the circulatory system in a cockroach and learn something about it. This one is very well detailed, very well animated, and I hope you also enjoy it.
Circulatory system in cockroach. Cockroach has an open circulatory system consisting of heart and the hemolymph. The hemolymph is a colorless fluid that fills the body cavity. The body cavity is divided into 3 chambers or sinuses. The dorsal sinus is also called the pericardial sinus as it contains the heart. The middle chamber containing visceral organs is called perivisceral sinus, and the ventral one containing the ventral nerve cord, the perineural sinus. The perineural sinus and the dorsal sinus have a number of pores which allow the hemolymph to flow from one chamber to the other. The heart is an elongated tubular structure with 13 chambers, 3 in the thoracic region and 10 in the abdominal region. The last chamber is closed at the posterior end, and each chamber opens into the preceding one. At the anterior end, the first chamber of the heart opens into the head sinus through the aorta. A pair of alveolar muscles is present on either side of the heart chamber. When alveolar muscles contract, the pericardial diaphragm stretches, increasing the volume of pericardial sinus. Now, the hemolymph from the perivisceral sinus enters the pericardial sinus. When alveolar muscles relax, the hemolymph from the pericardial sinus enters the heart through ostia, a pair of valvular apertures on each chamber. The valves allow the flow from the pericardial sinus to the heart and not vice versa. The peristaltic movements of the heart chambers carries the hemolymph from posterior to the anterior end into the head sinus, from where it returns to the perivisceral and perineural sinuses.
All right. Now, we are coming to the conclusion of our lesson today, and I want to give you an assignment. That you'll be able to recap on what we have just discussed. Number 1. What do you understand by circulatory system? What do you understand by circulatory system? Number 2. List the 3 main components of a circulatory system. List the 3 main components of a circulatory system. Number 3. Describe 2 differences or 2 different types of circulatory systems. Describe 2 different types of circulatory systems. And the last question, number 4. Identify 3 differences between the human heart and that of a cockroach. Identify 3 differences between the human heart and that of a cockroach. Well, my dear learner, we have come to the end of our lesson. I hope you have enjoyed it, and next time we shall look more about transport in animals. I have been your teacher, Mwaleli. Remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and also follow me on Twitter and even on Facebook at Mwaleli Peter, and we shall continue to discuss more and even to share more. So goodbye, see you later.